would be time that we go for the cookies on the side table and coffee.
We're just waiting a few seconds here for people joining. We always have a good number of people joining a few minutes after 8 o'clock. Welcome everybody to our December Switch Open meeting. There's still some people coming in. Oh. More and more people. Okay, why don't we start? Since it's 8:02, I am going to keep admitting people. So this is Ted Chu. I'll be running the technical side of the meeting. And Darko Matovic will be your host. If you haven't been to a Switch meeting before, what we do at the beginning is we go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves, because the Switch meetings are an opportunity to network and get to know the community of people who are interested in generally the area of sustainable energy. So please feel free to use the chat to have side conversations and introduce yourself, but we'll just go through and have everybody introduce themselves very briefly before we introduce our speaker. So I'm Ted Chu. I'm on the board of directors of Switch, and I used to be the executive director of Switch many years ago. And I'm just going to name off people. Darko, if you could go next.
Good morning, I'm Darko Matovic. I'm vice chair of the Switch board current, and I'm just retired from Queen's University, involved in sustainable energy, especially biomass and all other things energy related, and long time Switch member. Thanks.
Okay, I'll go with Gavin next. You are unmuted. Please.
Gavin Hutchison. I'm a founding member of 350 Kingston and recently rejoined Switch.
John Beard.
Good morning, all. I'm calling in from Belleville this morning. I'm on the board of directors of Belleville Emmanuel Residence, which is a social housing project for low-income seniors.
Gary.
I am Kari Goni Bulama. I am professor at RMC. I am Switch board member.
Kim McCauley.
Hi, I'm Kim McCauley, and I'm a chemical engineering professor at Queen's.
Tom Lavrissa.
Hi, Tom Lavrissa. I'm still living in Ottawa, but hope to move to Kingston in the new year. I have a woodlot that's in Joyceville, so I like the sustainable energy the wood can provide.
Great. Tatiana.
Good morning. Happy Friday. Tatiana Zaremba. I'm a PV specialist in Kingston and the Thousand Islands region. I own and operate a commercial fit project north of the city. Our first gigawatt hours have been produced, year 8 now. And formerly a member, I worked at RMC, so I'm super interested to see, since I've left, what RMC's been doing. I formerly worked in the environmental sciences group, so I can't wait to hear everything. Looking forward to the speaker. Thank you.
John Thompson.
Yes, John Thompson. I'm a crops and poultry farmer in Prince Edward County. My energy situation is I have microfit projects here on the farm. We heat the house primarily with geothermal, supplemented with wood pellets. And we have 3 houses on the farm, not using fossil fuel in any of them, actually.
Mark Sibley.
Good morning. I'm the webmaster for 350. We're trying to get a municipal solar project off the ground. We met with Jim Peach last month, and Tatiana Zaremba gave us a wonderful tour of her PV operation, solar PV. Good morning, all.
Paul McClatchy.
Good morning, Paul McClatchy. I'm a Switch board member and also work for the City of Kingston doing contaminated sites, environmental management, energy, and electric vehicle projects.
Ian Kilborn.
Oh, good morning. I'm energy auditor and building science consultant based north of Kingston.
Nicholas Vlachopoulos. Hope I pronounced that right.
No, fair enough, Vlachopoulos. No, good morning to everyone. I'm a professor at the Civil Engineering Department within the Royal Military College of Canada, and I'm also the co-director of the RMC Green Team that looks at area-wide sustainability projects within the Department of National Defense. Good morning.
Good morning. Rosie.
Hi, I'm a board member of Switch and the treasurer, and I am also in my day job manager for research and innovation services at Stantec, a large consulting firm. Thank you and good morning.
I have Tom Brackenberry next on my screen. Switching around.
Hi, I'm Tom Brackenbury. I'm an electrical distribution engineer for Utilities Kingston.
David Heineman.
Good morning, all. Apologies, my video doesn't seem to be working. I am the current board chair and president of Switch. My day job is chief science officer for a sustainable fire suppression technology development company in Napanee called Fire Rain. Thanks for everybody for being here.
Abdul Razak Jendi.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So it's Abdul Jendi. I'm the investment manager at Kingston Economic Development Office. I focus on sustainable manufacturing, and everything we speak about at this event is always within our pipeline.
Great. I have, sorry, the names are jumping around here. Darlene Plumley.
Hi, I'm the CAO clerk for the Township of Frontenac Islands, and we are always looking for ways to do things a little more environmentally conscious. So I'm here to learn, and I'd be pleased to take home some good tips from you people if I could. Thank you.
Thank you. Karina.
Hi, I'm Karina. I'm a program manager at Sustainable Kingston, which is focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions for our members.
Okay, we'll go next to, is Catherine LeBlanc there? There we go.
Good morning, bonjour. Catherine LeBlanc from University of Moncton. I also work with RMC's Green Team.
Great. Emily Brevard.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Emily Brevard. I'm with the RMC Green Team that's co-supervised by both Dr. Skordaki and Dr. Vlachopoulos.
Ma'am Adai, hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, it's Mami Ade. So I'm also with the RMC Green Team and also a student at Queen's. So I'm supervised by Dr. Skordaki and Dr. Vlachopoulos. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Okay. Caitlin.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm the conservation officer at Utilities Kingston.
David Garris.
Hi, I'm the energy manager for Queen's University Facilities.
Okay, I'm trying to find who's next. Ben, there's a Ben, and then there's Devon Lake. We'll go with Ben first, if you're there.
Hi, yeah, sorry, Ben Stinson, QSBRI. We're a research and development company in Kingston working on energy optimization of renewable systems.
Great, and then Devon Lake, if you're there. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, well, if you can't speak, you can always introduce yourself in the chat later on. So I'll pass it on now to Darko, who's going to host the meeting from here on and introduce our speaker.
Well, good morning. I guess I'm welcome to this December 3rd open meeting. We just had a roll call, and the first next thing on the agenda is to recognize our recent member renewalship, starting with St. Lawrence College as the large corporate member that renewed. Then we have, in a category of small business, we have Canadian Volatile Bob Vasily just renewed, and on a small nonprofit, John Beard, Belleville Emmanuel Residences renewed their membership. Also individual members, David Hyman leading by the example, and Bill Ignatov as recent renewals. So this is what we use to cover our daily costs and also to keep the organization moving and to have meetings like this organized. So it's my pleasure today to introduce the guest speaker, Dr. Frosny Maria Skodaki. She's the director of the RMC Green Team for Water and Environment at Royal Military College of Canada. Dr. Skodaki is the alumna of Kapodistrian University in Athens, Queen's University, Trenton University, and Athabasca University. And she conducted research at the RMC in Canada for over 15 years. She had also worked in the industry as a geochemist in Canada and internationally, and you can see more details of her bio at our webpage and, of course, at the RMC website. So today, her presentation is entitled Reducing Greenhouse Gas Emissions from Federal Government Facilities, a Nationwide Study. She will share with us her team experience and current practices regarding greenhouse gas emissions, data capture and data recording for achieving further reduction in support of the Government of Canada greening strategy. After the meeting is done, we will, as usual, have the Zoom channel chat open. So thanks to Ted, who is willing to stay longer. So there will be additional opportunity for members to network and to chat among themselves. So without further ado, please, Maria, welcome to your presentation.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today, for taking the time to attend this presentation. I hope that it will be not only interesting, but also in a way a pleasure, because it's so early in the morning and people would like to have something. We can offer cookies, at least we'll offer some pictures and maybe some interesting stories about what RMC Green Team has been up to. Thank you, Darko. Thank you, Kieri, for inviting me. And I guess I will be sharing my screen. Would that work, Ted? Okay. So let me play with a little bit.
Should be good.
Should be this one. Okay. Okay, here we are.
Very good.
So perfect. Okay, that's good. So we're starting on. So today we'll be discussing about how proactive DND, especially as a federal institution, is in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. My presentation, essentially, you can read on the slide, but I will tell you that I'm hoping to take you by the hand, if I can virtually, walk you through our work, and through the examples, you can assess by yourself, perhaps, how, what are the energy needs that DND has, and the environmental footprint. Obviously, everything we do has environmental footprint, but also in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. So off we go. About the RMC Green Team, it was really nice seeing, Emily, Mommy, Catherine, I'm forgetting somebody here. I can't see the screens anymore. And of course, Nicholas mentioned earlier, we are a multidisciplinary resource basically for DND, about 2 decades, working on primarily nationwide programs that involve civil engineering, geotechnical, as well as environmental, big on environmental. Our relationship obviously with DND is mutually supportive in research. So we have all of our outcomes, our focus is to inform our sponsor DND about environmental I guess, options and how to deal with infrastructure issues with respect to the environment, but also to support graduate studies should the military officer would like to come back to us and use our data sets for their work, for their graduate work. This looks like a map. I know it's a map of Canada. For me, for us, the team is our office. At any given day, I could be discussing about effluent quality with Coal Lake. The next hour about residual chlorine with Goose Bay, and maybe in the afternoon with Suffield about something in soil remediation. So it's for us very dynamic and a huge responsibility as well. In a nutshell, this is just a few of our current projects. And at the Military GeoWorks Lab, we also, of course, have geotechnical and more, structural, more into the civil engineering other than the environmental work. Talking about environmental work, and as I said before, we'll take you by the hand. One of our projects is on water and wastewater treatment facilities across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. Here you can see a couple of pictures, and I will move on with in more detail. So one of our projects, water, wastewater treatment and quality management on this program. From that, a spin-off was a sewage lagoon research study, a graduate program. Miss Mami Ada is working on it. And as we move on, this is outcomes again. Research options that we offer to the base that we work there. This or data from a certain military base. Firing ranges. This is another topic. Firing ranges are obviously, you can imagine, training in every base. You would think, okay, maybe there has to do with contamination, perhaps we need some remediation of the soil. What this has to do with greenhouse gases or energy. They need a lot of maintenance actually. And the burns that you see, because of the use, because of the impact, of the bullets and different types of ammunition used on the range, they need to be restructured sometimes. So this is something like the soil has to be rehauled and bring new. So these are also considerations that you can see that have implications with respect to greenhouse gases footprint of DND. Some more pictures on firing ranges and how they're being used. Of course, we talk about remediation, but this also has implications with energy usage. Tactical power, another program that we have that basically seeks to define the energy usage that takes place at a certain deployment or training exercises, or even at the camp, at the base, at the brigade level and below. So these are, this is another path that we have to explore in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Just a couple of details here. As I said, I will take you by the hand, showing you our work or some of our work. Here we have that circled certain values that depict the demand, the energy demand per person, per soldier at a camp, at a deployable camp. These numbers are being now redefined through our projects, but also in communication with our sponsors, DND, to ensure that they reflect current needs, but also about we look into forecasting. So these are certain parameters that we look at. So I said, take you by the hand and fly perhaps over Canada. This is now we're in a Hercules, flying up to over Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and we end up in Goose Bay. Why in Goose Bay? Well, because we need to take a look at the water treatment plant there. This plant doesn't just provide water to the base, it also provides water to the town. So now that's a complication. How do you differentiate how much energy usage is for the base and how much for the water that's being used for the town, the locals? Moving on, take you down to Nova Scotia. This is a brand new wastewater treatment plant. Very, very expensive, you might see. And it has to be, it's very modern. That's an overview, Aldershot, membranes and all. Summertime, they are very busy. Wintertime, though, you may have perhaps 1 or 2, maybe 3 people on the camp for Aldershot, maybe a few more, but no more than 10. So now we have a population variant there. You'd be hard pressed to find a city or even a village that has, such a reduction or increase, in population, in users of this facility. At the basis, this is quite often. So again, another parameter we need to incorporate in our greenhouse gas emissions calculations and energy usage, as determination. Back to Ontario, we're in Borden right now. We have a water treatment plant there, and we are looking into maintaining the water tower. It's a huge camp, Borden. It can go up to thousands, when they have training courses, and their water and wastewater treatment facilities are working probably to full capacity. So you can imagine the maintenance, the number of staff, as well as the energy to keep all this warm, in the winter time, or to maintain the lagoons during the summertime. So we're talking about keeping the facilities warm. I'll take you, this is again Borden. We're doing some sampling, and off we are again on a Hercules, flying up to Alert. Here we are with Emily, again doing some environmental assessments as well as water quality up at our station there. Very interesting site. It's where you know that your recommendations, anything that you can support in terms of whether it is a reporting methodology to support the operator, or if it is about bibliography that you can summarize and again inform them about best practices, new current best practices. This is a place where it really matters to them, because there are no other options. There's nothing around, obviously. So imagine how much energy it takes to have this station there, and for the Hercules to go up and down from Trenton to make sure that this can be sustained, to keep it there, to exist, to have it there. Again, some more pictures about Alert. You can see the vehicles we use. Emily is sitting there. It doesn't look very cold. If you see the pipes behind her are from the water treatment plant. They go all the way to the station. They are heated. Talking about energy again. Moving on. So don't miss anybody, and we haven't left anybody back in Goose Bay. We're here in Alert. So if you're there, just join us again. Please follow up. Back from alert, if you got cold enough, moving on. These are the Rockies. We are in Esquimalt. Just got back, actually. Here is Jorge, Emily, and we are on the ships. Royal Canadian Navy. Talking about energy and looking at how many different types of training our sailors, the CFB Esquimalt staff need to accomplish at every one of their trips. It's impressive. So again, another parameter we need to take into consideration. Training, it has to be done to highest quality, but also keep in mind principles about sustainability, for example. Okay, let's see, we're going first. Oh, okay, more about Esquimalt. Just at the bottom here, you can see Esil was saying good morning to us, just resting there on the dock. So in a nutshell, all of these pictures, all this 3-minute tour of a few more minutes is to show you the different types of infrastructure, the different types of needs that D&D has, and also its energy usage requirements that are very different, from province to province, to territory, and from coast to coast, but also the type of infrastructure. Some of them are very brand new, some of them are older or refurbished, and also the usage. So at a certain given time, you have a facility basically working for 10 people, and 3 months down the road, you have it there for 1,500. So managing this is a challenge. Energy usage, just to break it down, taking bullet points. This is any typical base. Starts from accommodation all the way to the sewage lagoons, the land farms, landfills. These are considerations, these are parameters that we have taken into account when we build our options analysis, our tools to help D&D assess their energy needs, as well as determine more or less their greenhouse gas emissions. I guess, yeah, there are different calculations, to include all of this, but certainly there are certain assumptions that need to be made here. So this brought, this study that we've done is focusing primarily on facilities, on buildings, but also at some environmental facilities such as landfills. Keep in mind, D&D portfolio has 20,000 buildings, the highest in the country. And for this reason, the Pan-Canadian framework on clean growth and climate change is providing guidance on how to green D&D, so how to procure green equipment, or how to have or maintain green infrastructure. So this has very, again, ambitious goals, but doesn't mean unattainable. A little bit of literature on the greening of the government strategy. I will just mention that it is in line with the Paris Agreement on climate change, and of course, it has several commitments in terms of increasing the resilience of the assets, so that with climate change, we can still, as D&D, function and complete training and maintain our facilities, but of course, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In order to support D&D in this regard, this study came about And of course, it's always teamwork. So here, of course, I have Nicholas, Emily, Ryan, helping us in coming up with tools that can determine the greenhouse gas emissions, but also forecast. So if we're having a new building, how this is going to affect our greenhouse gas emissions footprint in the next 20 years, for example, with some assumptions, of course. So this new study, the decision-making considerations for urban planners. So the question was, if I'm building a new piece of infrastructure at a certain military installation, where should I locate it? What type of parameters should I consider? Should I be refurbishing, renovating, or building something new? All of this came into play. So again, the objective of the study is to support them in their future development plans and see how they can either use older infrastructure but update it or build new. Okay, for every study, every program that we conduct, we have very specific methodology that involves quantitative data, obviously, but also the qualitative aspect. So we are quite working closely with D&D staff, with operators, if it is a facility, or if it is military personnel, and collect their feedback. So we conduct interviews and we pair them up with data for either if it is a usage of a firing range, or if it is volumes of water being produced at the water treatment plant. So again, this pairing up of these two different data sets that actually complement each other. We cannot conduct our work, obviously, without observing the regulations for it. So in this situation, there was a consolidation of regulatory frameworks, and also a compilation putting together different parameters, metrics, what comes into play, basically, whether it is equipment that we need to look to investigate, the different types of energy that they use, or for different standards, international standards, Canadian ones, or if it is, different types of operations that need to rely on fossil fuel, because, for example, solar energy is not reliable to them at this point. So again, different key parameters. Some additional considerations when we talk about energy efficiencies or short and long-term strategies. We have the military, in order to conduct their training or to deploy, there are certain requirements that need to be met. And for example, switching from diesel to biodiesel, this is not something that they can do on the fly while they're conducting their training. This needs to be secured beforehand, and making sure that it is not something that's going to cause issues while they're in the field. So this is not, most of the times, what I'm hearing from military personnel is not something that you can experiment with. When you have training, it has to be completed at high standards. So we either come up with efficient and effective solutions, or that they will not be implemented. We discussed this before. I just want to remind as we go over, the different considerations. And of course, all this now, as it was merged together, the bibliography, the interviews, the data that we collected, and the different considerations about the unique requirements of D&D, our rationale was created, after merging all those different items. So, for example, balancing operational requirements, as was discussed earlier, with the different aims, but also human comfort, or thinking about carbon offsets. There's a lot of parkland at every base, but how does this play into our equations when we determine GHGs? And of course, forecasting. For this study, our methodology took 7 steps in total. So we looked at each building, each facility as an X-ray. It could be the age, one factor, could be whether its energy usage is combined the same meter with another building, or if it has its own meter. So details about that. And of course, whether the GHG targets that we have from the province, from the federal government, align with the greenhouse gas emissions that this building has currently. The question from the architects or the urban planners was, what is my decision-making guide when I want to build something or to renovate? What should I be considering? What are those key factors? Again, up to those 7 steps. And I will go, I have a couple of, I don't know with time how we're doing, but we have a couple of scenarios we can play. And this gave us those 7 steps led to an algorithm, basically a systematic multi-step algorithm that helped the user go from step 1 to step 7, and in each phase it would give them certain outcomes, so that at the end it would calculate whether you can it would be more environmental friendly in terms of GHGs to build or to renovate, or even maintain its current state, like do nothing, so that because there's no it wouldn't be any additional burden with respect to the environmental footprint or the energy footprint of the base. I will start with the GIS query that Emily created, Miss Emily Brevard, and basically layers and layers of data on a certain map. I will go through it a little quickly. We can discuss later if you like in the discussion. There's quite a bit of information or material. But in a nutshell, it gives you the condition of the building all the way from it to when it was built, if there has been any upgrades, any maintenance. And in terms of development, future development, is it on owned land or leased? And so different attributes. This, for example, is 8-week trend on a building classification, different types of uses and usage. So we have accommodations, that's one type of use, or office buildings. And then in terms of usage, are the accommodations used constantly? Do we have people living in there, or only in the summers, or only when there's training going on? So different attributes again for our where we could draw information and run our algorithm. Again, our multi-step tool here, a regulatory framework. And as we merge the information and we summarize it, now we calculate our greenhouse gas emissions. Basically, my activity data, this is a methodology, how to calculate GHG emissions. The parameters that are being used, activity data, emission factors, and global warming potentials are essentially quantitative measures for activity data, or ratios that help us interpret what's happening in reality to translate them into CO2, like carbon dioxide equivalents. So in a way, we have a measuring stick. So, okay, this is how we can compare apples with apples. And I can go this more in detail. I just don't want to take too much of the time from the discussion. So if we were to run this example, how to calculate GHG emissions based on 100 liters of propane in a building, we would first convert it to a common unit of measurement, like the actual consumption. Move on by using the right emission factors. And there are inventors that are actually bibliography where we can find the emission factors for each of these substances or gases. And move on with calculating with the global warming potential, basically the impact. The potential is if these are released, how much of an impact do I have in the environment? So for this example, I want to a little quickly here, we come up with this a number, again, CO2 equivalents. Same thing, very similar with the calculations we did with our buildings or our facilities. So here is the final calculation. And moving on to my scenario, if I am in Trenton, thinking about this methodology, the calculations, and all the parameters that I have taken into consideration, bibliography, the data from the GIS tool, and the steps in my methodology. I look at a building that is, for example, below 40 years old. It's in good condition. And the urban planner at the base is asking, should I keep using it? Or because it's so old, perhaps I should tear down and build something new. What impact will I have in terms of GHGs? Going through the methodology, I will not go now. It's quite lengthy, but it's because it's detailed, that's why. Just from looking at the first annex, our first, the bibliography section, we look at this is, we calculated emissions that are place it to the high risk. So let's see now, let's compare this with the possibility of building something new. Okay, we run through the algorithm. We look at its electricity usage. We look at how, how much is using in terms of natural gas, heating, and other parameters, water use. Again, all these factors are coming in come from the bibliography. And what we ended up advising our urban planners is that maintaining its present state, do nothing basically, and maintain the building as it is, it would be a better solution than building something new. Same scenarios happen every base, whether it is an office building or if it is an air hangar, like for an Air Force base. It is sometimes we're too quick to say that we need something new, a green building. We need to get rid of all infrastructure. I would say, from what we've seen across Canada, that sometimes the new infrastructure can be kind of a boomerang, because if you don't know how to maintain it, if training doesn't follow, training of your staff on how to read the building and make sure that you are on the preventative side with respect to maintenance and not at the reactionary, that can become actually worse than an old building that you know how to take care of it. It has its issues, but it's not as expensive to build or to replace, and it's basically a black screen for you. You don't know how to maintain it. So there is this risk-based approach that we follow, and it has to basically comparing between new retrofitting and decommissioning is something that we not only recommend, we actually follow across this methodology, trying to make sure that not only the current situation, but also in the future, like forecasting what's the risk in maybe 20 years from now, assuming that we have about the same usage and the same condition in the building. So for scenario one, there were some proposed activities. For another scenario, the same thing. This was actually for a brand new development. We followed the methodology. We initially assessed that this building, if it was to be developed, it would be at 20,000 tons of CO2 equivalents. So that would be at a high risk category. We ran through the scenario, and we saw that it would be easier, I guess, for this building. I think it would be better for them to, I guess, build one, like to have the new development to take place. It was something that it had some plus and minuses on both sides. You know, maintain its current state or build something new, but also retrofitting would also take into consideration, you know, down the road for 40 years. So that was a situation where we had to assess parameters, far in the future. So there are some situations like that where the forecasting can it can have too many assumptions. So you may think, okay, perhaps I should just maintain the current state, although my numbers might look different. Pretty much, I think I have touched upon on this, that training on new infrastructure is quite important, and also that certain other parameters such as transportation within the base, building something that is outside the grid. Within a base is like a city, is like a town. When you build something new, it may be far away, so that you have more land or you have more parking space from the original buildings. That means you have to bring the utilities there, or you may have to drive all the way there. So now there are some side effects. So the numbers in the algorithm may say, okay, build something new or do nothing, but there's also some other considerations that, again, with the qualitative feedback of the staff, that those can be, I guess, can be explained better, and it can help the urban planners make a better decision. All of this, the work, the discussions with D&D staff, the analysis, and even taking the step to investigate how we can reduce greenhouse gases has brought positive results. This is a graph actually from federal website you can find on the internet that shows progress towards the federal target for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, whether it is for several types of facilities and operations. So you can see between 2005 and 2006, the green one, the green columns, and in gray between 2019 and 2020. So you see there's some progress. Of course, we have a long way to go. And there is always tools, different methods that we develop as we find out more. What is interesting is what I find with collecting data is that there are many filters. When the data come to us, they have already gone through several filters. Those filters are people who are honestly trying to do the best they can with managing infrastructure, collecting information, managing it, but doesn't necessarily have maybe the training, maybe it's the knowledge, because science keeps progressing, and it's not easy to keep up, especially if you have certain routines. If you're working at a sewage treatment plant and you need to take care of certain things, hands-on activities, hands-on work. So when we receive data, we always, or we strive to check those filters to make sure that nothing was omitted without people want to do that, but being omitted because they thought it's not important. So learning how to collect data for greenhouse gas, the impact of greenhouse gas emissions is another lesson learned for us. Learning how to collect good data and not exactly what's in a binder or what comes to us after, as I said, several filters. So I think that brings me to the end of the discussion. Thank you, or the presentation. Thank you very much. I think I took a little too much of the discussion, but I'm here for questions and any comments. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Maria. And yes, please, we're open for the questions. Probably it's a good point to stop screen sharing so we can see, people can just raise hand, and I hope Ted will then easily. Maybe I start with a few questions myself, if that's okay. When you, this is beyond what you described right now about the actual energy consumption of the D&D. Just in view of the recent engagement of Canadian forces in actual climate mitigation with, helping in disasters in British Columbia and so on, how do you see your role or your role of your team in that new expanding role in future?
Well, this again is about, I guess, all of us becoming more resilient in the impact of climate change, and especially with respect to supporting the troops, being able to go out there and have the right equipment, and also have infrastructure that can perhaps sustain these types of, or this type of phenomena, whether it is a flood or if it is extreme heat, like it was in BC last summer. So, we talk about extreme heat, air conditioning. Well, yes, but it cannot be, it cannot severely affect the greenhouse targets of a base. So finding basically options or staging, for example, the usage of certain types of equipment, advising D&D how to stage that. So, we don't have to run all of the air conditioners at the same time if we're not using that building. I'm just giving you an example.
Yes.
Coming up with options analysis and trying to address these new situations that are new for every one of us. Like, it's sometimes knowing that they need generators, to help with the floods, for example, advising them to use solar panel ones when they're not going to be exactly that efficient. It's not exactly an option. They are very pragmatic, and then unless it works, they're not going to touch it, and they're right about it. We have to be, people look to them to be efficient.
Yes, thank you. So we have a question from David Garish. Would your team look at costs to reduce GHG emissions? Have you developed a cost abatement curve to estimate the total cost to eliminate D&D carbon emissions?
So I guess it's in the chat. I'll read it.
Yes, it's in the chat. So I was just reading so that everybody can hear the question.
Okay, yes, it's
about the costs and the curve
the cost of
of,
my curve to eliminate.
To estimate the total cost of elimination. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, determining the total cost. That's something we're there. We're there just determining in order to estimate the total cost. First of all, you have to define it, and there's quite a bit of work right at that level of the research. There is, like we discussed earlier, you have bases that are almost empty during winter time, and they're full. Much more population or users in the summertime. So these are defining these parameters. David is where we're at this moment, I think.
Okay, so
there's another question.
Yes, do you want to read it to us, or I can read it?
Of course. Maria, you mentioned about technologists must work out of the box. Yes. Do you? I'll be. Yeah, on trial projects, yes. Do you interface with D&D on trial projects to assess new technologies and their potential GHG impacts, and you only assess existing infrastructure? So trial projects happen with or without us in the field, and we have, we can recommend, but there's also some there's still equipment that has been procured by D&D, and it's green equipment, for example, and whether it is exercise on base or for deployment. I had feedback like that from staff. I don't personally, no, I mean, we do trials and type of equipment. It could be for water quality testing, for example. We do collect the feedback from the staff. If it is existing, you're asking if it is only in existing infrastructure, only assist existing infrastructure. At this point, for let me think. Our model, for example, was also built for forecasting. And we also looked at whether we have a future base, what would be ideal based on the targets that the federal government has for greenhouse gases. So that's, again, part of our algorithm, but it's at the research level. We don't have a realistic like a test facility, if you're asking that. And thank you, it's a good question, actually. Is it Mark or Ted?
Well,
yeah, Darko, I see Ted's name up, hand up.
Yeah, I can go. I just had one comment and a question. The first comment is on the last slide about the greenhouse gas reductions from the federal government between 2005-06 and 2019-20. It struck me that a lot of the reduction was from the purchased electricity category, which to me means it's mostly from the shutting down of coal plants in Ontario. If I'm wrong, let me know. And then my question is about the last part of your methodology, which is the recommendations that you make. And I'm thinking about innovation. This is related to David Hyman's question. I'm thinking about innovation, things like renewable energy in the Arctic and biofuels for airplanes. And I'm wondering if your recommendations, if you somehow try to be innovative, try to encourage D&D to take some risks with the principle of government procurement driving innovation in Canada. Do you take that into account?
they already have taken several steps in terms of trying new equipment or innovative solutions. It would be, we're talking about biofuels, for example, or SAF for the planes. We discuss about, there's quite a bit of work on this. And we do discuss about perhaps looking at the harnessing biogas from lagoons. So there's quite a bit of discussion on this. I think the implementation of these initiatives will be in the near future, like for several of these aspects. There's a lot of information that is just, I'm not sure because it's also live streaming how much it can be discussed upon.
We have Nicholas.
Can I also just add
Yes.
to that, please? I mean, we have this great discussion in terms of biofuels, but what we have to do is we have to understand the reality on the ground. So the Royal Canadian Air Force, then, if they are going to invest in biofuels, which a lot of other nations are doing, we're going to have to increase the footprint of the base, because now they're going to have this mixture of fuels, and then they're going to also have to have the same parallel infrastructure for housing the biofuels. And so this is a huge infrastructure investment. It's also an environmental footprint, and you have to look at the sustainability down the road as well. And we are looking at new technologies in terms of, about the North TED. We're looking at small nuclear. We're looking at fuel cells. There's all sorts of other technologies that we're trialing and monitoring at the moment as well. And so these innovations, as they come online, they come to us so that we can trial them. New generators are being purchased by D&D as we speak for implementation, as Maria talked about, as part of the tactical energy project as well. And so that's going to be a legacy that if we start procuring now in D&D, we're probably looking at the next time we procure is probably 20 years down the road. And so this is the cycle that we have to deal with. And so it's like steering this large ship, but it takes a while for the ship to kind of turn. And so we are being proactive, and the Royal Canadian Air Force is already looking at operations. So not just the physical infrastructure, but how can we be sustainable in terms of operations? And then a side discussion in terms of shutting down the coal and clean energy, because our mandate in D&D is to report on greenhouse gases as they're created on our bases through sustainability officers at each base.
And to add to this, simulations have been, we're talking about Air Force, have been used extensively from what I'm hearing in terms of, for training, in terms of flying around, and using up fuel. They use this option, simulations, which I think is on the good, a good initiative.
Okay, thanks. I posted a question there myself. Is there a way for public, like outside D&D, to contribute with the ideas or some kind of, open contests for particular solutions or particular problem without, giving too much specifics that would, jeopardize the operation integrity?
Well, there is RMC has students in uniform as well as civilians, so there is contribution for sure from the general public, from researchers who are not in uniform, and definitely support D&D that way. Yes, for sure. Yes, I see there's questions in the chat room. I think it was Mr. Mark Sibley. Stand up. Yes.
Sure, I'll go ahead. In the before times, I would go to Base Kingston once a week, and I would see new buildings going up. So my question is, are those new buildings being constructed to a passive or net zero standard? What is the standard for new buildings and the process?
Well, most of the new buildings are supposed to be green buildings. Now, some there's retrofitted, but yes, there are new buildings in CFP Kingston that should be metered, should have the green technology, limiting water usage if they don't need to, having, shutting off the lights, using light bulbs that are energy efficient. So all of these parameters are now in the new buildings from what I'm reading and what we have seen, just assessing several bases with respect to GHG emissions.
So these buildings are built to a LEED standard, as Maria is describing there. And again, we're not going rogue on any of this. D&D follows the federal standard on all of these things.
Okay. The other thing I've noticed is that some of the older buildings, there's low-hanging fruit, and it's been frustrating to watch it for 15 years and not see lighting retrofits and plumbing retrofits that would have paid back, a decade ago. Is there some coordinated plan to deal with that low-hanging fruit? I appreciate building envelope and electrification can be difficult, but things like lighting retrofits and plumbing retrofits are much more achievable.
Yeah, I think this is also there with the equation, or basically the balance. Do you retrofit or do you build new? And some of these buildings, I fear that, and actually these decisions were made years ago for whether they would build something new or not. So I'm not sure where the targets with GHG were, perhaps 10 years ago, when the decisions were made or the funding was approved. So there's also certain loopholes, certain administration that has to be conducted for the new buildings to happen today. They have been decided years back. So that's,
just because this is a infrastructure kind of question, I just like to weigh in on this as well, if I could. And so in Kingston, you talk about low-lying fruit. The thing is now is the Army has gone through, and the Canadian Forces has gone through and finished a transformation. And we went from a decentralized model, centralized model. And so now all those 20,000 plus buildings are in a central database, and any infrastructure in Kingston is competing with all other infrastructure across the country with a view to being able to optimize the resources, to give the resources to buildings that are in need of that retrofit or in need of that funding, or to do the assessment as Maria had described here. And so for Kingston specifically, and any other projects, I mean, anybody can bid on the MERC system for these projects. I mean, there's all sorts of consultants that can go onto the government website and bid for the projects. And so those retrofitting things are happening, but they again, we're being scored across the country now, and not necessarily at the base level. And so there's a lot of competition across the forces now with the centralized model that we're employing.
Oh, Nicholas, on that, how do you plan on keeping local talent, while it's going on such a federal level? How do you want to keep the business of some of your local contractors in the city of Kingston?
Well, I think that, again, I think that us as an organization, I mean, you saw the maps that Maria was showing, we're active across the country. And I think to be competitive, we need to go across the country. And the model now at the federal level is there's definitely going to be a lot of construction. That's a lot of construction. There's going to be construction projects in Kingston at the base level. A lot of it is regulated by the realty properties officers on the base, and that maintenance and operation still has to occur. So there's definitely requirements and need and a budget on the bases that require attention. So that's not going to go away. So they do have an operating budget annually. It's just the larger projects and the retrofits that need to be competitive or or are being competed against across the country. So we're local, fine, but maybe we want to be able to reach out to a larger scope in some respects. I don't know, Maria, what do you think?
Yeah, no, there are operators who come, they are certified in New Brunswick, and they may come to run a certain facility in Alberta. So the local talent may be in the day-to-day maintenance, but for larger projects, D&D through its contractors might hire across Canada. So it's I've seen that happening all the time, and I think when you need a certain specialty, a certain expertise, and they have to always think about the training, national defense. That's what they're there for, not to maintain buildings. They're there to train the soldier for national defense. So if they need a certain specialty, a certain expertise, they have to go and search across Canada. And although yes, I fully agree with you. I see your point that local talent should be, appreciated.
Yes, some like in-house RMC people is what I'm talking about. Your teams, specifically, not so much going through the MERC system, but making sure that you connect with the city of Kingston on maybe less of a provincial and federal level, but also get it down to the municipal level and start working with some of the local people instead of recreating the wheels. I think if we all started working together more rather than reaching all out, and I'm not talking about for the defense projects, right? I'm talking about for the operational, like just maintenance of buildings. We're talking not so much for training facilities or that, but congratulations on the carbon measurements. I can't even believe the work that you've done on the qualitative stuff. I'm so impressed. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your comment. No, definitely together we can do a lot more, like, at the municipal level, as you mentioned. Just that our scope, because it's wide, going from a coast to coast to coast, sometimes we have to, if somebody is in Alberta and we have a base in Alberta, we may have to, hire someone there. But yes, no, we're based in Kingston, so you're right. We can and we should also involve local talent. No, I definitely agree.
Well, I guess, thank you. It's probably a good point that we finish this official part of the presentation. We will now go through the sector news, and if you don't mind staying online, typically, as we officially finish the meeting in about 15 minutes, Ted is our great volunteer to keep the lines open, and we can have some chat for everybody who wants to stay another maybe half an hour or so. Does that sound like a good plan? Okay, so we'll now go to the sector news. We'll start with fuel cells. I will first have to share a sad news that our longtime member and expert in fuel cells, John Farah, passed away 2 weeks ago. That was a very sudden and tragic course of events after brief illness, nothing to do with COVID, just it took us, everybody, as it hit us hard, let's put it this way. So anything else about fuel cells? No hands on that. Solar, any news on solar?
Yes, the 350 Kingston subgroup is that's looking to get municipal solar installed. Had a meeting with Jim Keach, who's the retiring head of Utilities Kingston. That was a successful meeting, but we got a long ways to go. And as I mentioned, we toured Tatiana Zaremba's solar farm. A very impressive facility, and Tatiana herself is a force to be reckoned with. So thank you, Tatiana.
My question to you, Mark, Do you think it might be a good idea, given that this is a long-term and a massive initiative, that we organize maybe in January or February some kind of forum that Switch could host, or together switches about Kingston, I don't know, related to that particular initiative, so that we can have some kind of discussion.
That would be great.
Okay, we can put that on our board meeting as an agenda item, and we'll get back with recommendation.
I bet Lisa Asbrook would love that invite, Darko, from
Yes.
Cunningham and Swan.
Yes. Maybe one way to approach that would be to have one of the open meetings related to that, but we will discuss that, and it's just I definitely noted about Lisa. Thanks, Tatiana. Anything new other about solar? Bioenergy? Anything about bioenergy? Electric.
Sorry, I could go back to solar
Yes.
for a quick
Yes,
second.
please.
There's so much to say about solar. The electricity transmission ETC conference was up in Toronto this past week at the Metro Center and was incredibly well attended. I chickened out pandemic fears and didn't attend, but attended virtually, and it was really quite successful in terms of solar this week. It had a lot of energy running. And thank you, 350. Oh my goodness, the nicest words ever. And I enjoyed meeting you guys and showing you out so much. Thanks so much. We're going to talk so much more.
As I asked about these news, I also encourage everybody to post the chat with links and so on, so that people can later get to the bottom of it. So anything more about solar, or we move to electric vehicles? Anything about electric vehicles?
Hi there. Sorry, folks, I'm having big problems with my computer. Big news. After like 8 years, there's finally going to be chargers up to 150 kilowatts provided by Ivy at the en route stops on 400 series highways.
Tatiana has also. Yes, Tatiana?
No, sorry, that was great. That
Okay.
was just a ghost hit.
I got a question for
okay.
Spencer, though, on those en routes. How many do you think each en route should have?
How many stalls?
Yeah, how many charging stations should an en route have, do you think? I mean, I just curious, I don't know, like, what's the right number? Do you just a rough guess?
This is the problem that electric car owners wish we had, having more cars than chargers. So Kingston had 6 Tesla chargers stalls and now has 8. And I don't use them, but you get a notice on the Tesla display how many stalls are available, how long the wait is, and that sort of thing, which Tesla owners agree is it's the way it should be run. You should be able to know if you're going to get to your destination that there's going to be a charger there that's going to be working. So over 6 or 8 as a guess. There are charge points in the UK where it's like the en route to places, but it's all different types of electric chargers, and they're all surrounding a hub that has a restaurant, a bookstore, a car showroom for EVs. So it's a destination as well as a I need to top up, or I need to stop, or I need to go there to get to my destination. And they have 30 or 40 different types of chargers. So there's Tesla, there's a number of the different Ionity, a number of different companies. Ivy's very interesting that they've been sort of playing in the background where they go north-south, where the initial Sun Country Highway and Tesla and all the others were only east-west, you know, so anybody who lived north of, you know, Kingston or 401 had a problem getting to their destination, or a big fear for buying an electric car. You know, I have a cottage near Algonquin Park, and there's a great big hole between, you know, where I turn off the 401 and where I get to my cottage.
Thanks.
I
I
have
would
a
also
quick comment for electric vehicles.
Mhm.
I'm the owner of a Chevrolet Bolt, and it's subject to a recall on the battery at 2019. I don't know how many model years. I can report that General Motors has finally stepped up, and I have an appointment now to get a brand new battery put in that car a couple of weeks from now. It will have 10% more range than the old battery, and that's cost of that is covered by GM under the recall. I know you're all going to ask, well, what happens to the old battery? And I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question yet, but I will ask the dealer and see if they know.
They will be recycled, probably used in grid storage, that kind of thing. And they restarted production of the Bolt. So that's going to be a really good secondhand purchase. So if you know someone that's looking for an EV, doesn't have a lot of money and has a lot of fear, you know, buying a secondhand Bolt. My wife bought a secondhand Bolt 2017, and she's in the queue to get her battery replaced. It's going to be really, really nice. You know, you're going to get it, as you said, extended range and a brand new battery. And LG Chem is the one that's going to be initially or eventually paying for it all, because it was their screw up there. You know, it's laziness in the manufacturing, basically.
Okay, thanks, Spencer. I would just add the news actually that David passed on about this pilot project in Toronto between Peak Power and Hydro One, where the cars would be used for feeding to the grid. It's a pilot of 15 Nissan Volts, Leafs, sorry, where the owners would actually be paid the peak price when they supply, you know, extra energy on demand. It's all handled with an app, and owners decide what percentage they're willing to offer. But this is the first time where really your vehicle can become sort of a money maker in a way. That's yes. Okay. So let's move on to transportation. Anything on transportation? Wind power, geothermal. Had a nice presentation in September, but in October. Water power. Anything on education? Sorry, I'm a bit rushing through, but time is limited. Conservation, green building.
Darko, on that one, just wanted to point out that we had our final of 4 sessions on hydrogen power, and the last session was mostly focused on hydrogen in the building space, you know, the use either directly or as a storage medium for that. There's certainly been enough interest in those sort of secondary sessions within Switch, run by Andrew Backus and Harriet Waterman, that I think we're going to continue doing them. We're in discussion with how best to move forward, whether we need to be more, you know, we've got the theory down now, maybe we need to move more on to you know, what can we implement. You know, maybe we need a local hydrogen deployment, just like you know, Mark's been talking about as far as a local PV deployment. So stay tuned on that, but there will be more sessions in some form or another. But the last one was specifically on built infrastructure and the use of hydrogen in that space.
Thanks, David. We have Paul McClatchy. Paul, can you unmute yourself?
There we go. Thanks, Darko. I just wanted to mention really quickly that the city did approve, or sorry, City Council did approve our new Green Standard Community Improvement Plan, which is a community improvement plan similar to the Brownfields program that will provide financial incentive to private developers that commit to developing to a net zero building standard. So should be able to see application opportunities for that in 2022. And I missed the call for bioenergy. I just wanted to remind everybody that the city and Utilities Kingston are proceeding with our further assessment of biogas generation potential using biosolids and source separated organics. And the remainder of the environmental assessment process, including consultations and so forth, will happen in 2022. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Thanks, I probably will. Great. So anything on collaborations? Any other energy issues? Well, I guess.
I don't know which one of those last two that this
That's
goes
fine.
to, Darko, but
We're not sticklers. Just go ahead. Yes.
Solar Edge has come out with a new battery energy system that I thought was pretty impressive, and I'll pass along to you if anybody wants, or if you want to post it. There's a web training seminar on this system, and it looks pretty impressive. I think it's one of the leading technologies kind of out in the last month that I'm going to go look into. So I thought I'd just pass it along to you too, Darko.
Thank you. Thanks. So we can. We intend to intensify also our information feed on our website. So these would be a very good contributions. Thank you. So I guess as a finish of this official part, just to announce that our next open meeting will be January 7th, and stay tuned. So now we would stay, and I would sort of call back to discussion with Maria and Nicholas about the D&D program and anything else that people want to chat. So at this point, I would pass on to Ted to be the host, because I mean, I'm here, but he's the one that...
I'm just going to end the live stream and I'll stop the recording. And if I'll just stay on for half an hour in case anybody would like to keep